before we talk about this 2-day event at the first part of September, talk about what Circles NWA is, what you all do, and on a daily basis.
So Circles is a poverty reduction initiative, and we work with low-income individuals and families to help them pursue upward mobility from poverty. The unique thing about Circles is that we flip the traditional mentorship model on its head to center the leadership of those who are experiencing poverty. So our circle leaders, and that's not just a name. We really believe that we need their leadership if we want to solve some of the biggest problems facing our community. And our circle leaders are matched with 2 to 3 volunteer allies who typically come from higher income backgrounds. And our allies commit to walking alongside circle leaders for 18 months as they're pursuing goals to increase their income, grow their careers, build social capital, and develop as leaders. And we really operate that flipped model. So the allies are there to listen and to learn. And there's a lot of mutual learning from both sides. And we're about to launch our 5th cohort this fall.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, so every fall we launch a new group of circle leaders and allies. Both groups go through training on the front end and then they get matched in their match circles. And that kind of kicks off their 18-month process. And so we always have 2 overlapping at once. So the current cohort's going to graduate May of next year. So we're actually, today is the first day of cohort 5 for our circle leaders, and we're still recruiting for allies for that cohort. But this is something we launch every year now.
So, how successful has this process worked? It is rather unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really great. I think our circle leaders have set some really big goals to increase their income and to take new jobs, which is always a big risk. It takes a lot of courage to change jobs. We've had a bunch of circle leaders recently move into the cobblestone affordable housing complex that was built off of Weddington, and that's a huge win just financially for budgets with the rising cost of living in this community. And then also, we really believe that in this idea of leadership. And so our circle leaders have led the way in a lot of the things that we're doing in the community. We worked really closely with City Council in the city to try to get a housing crisis declared last year. And that came out of one of our circle leaders bringing to our attention some of the housing issues that she was having at her apartment complex. And that kind of kicked off this multi-year advocacy work to try to get something to happen. And so from both the individual and the community aspect, we've seen a lot of really great success.
All right, so talk about what's happening on the 5th and 6th. Who is going to be gathering and what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, so on the 5th and 6th, we are doing an event called Co-Create. This is a model that we've developed to get at community-driven solutions. And so we're inviting community members that live in Fayetteville or Northwest Arkansas to come together with city leadership. And when I say community members, I'm talking about renters and landlords, realtors, developers, anyone, homeowners. Like, we want everyone to come together. And this event is to really generate some creative, innovative solutions that the city can actually act on to address the housing crisis. We all know, like, we need to build more, but that can feel really out of reach for the everyday person. And there's actually a lot of things that we could be working on that are more tangible and accessible. And so this event is going to bring people together. The first night on Friday is we have a lot of expert panelists, and to really ground the group in a good understanding and context of what does housing and the housing crisis look like right now. And then they'll come back on Saturday. They'll get to hear from Mayor Ron on her vision for housing and for our city. And then they'll go into this co-create process. Well, there'll be community dialogue. Like, how do we need to hear from each other and what we're all experiencing around 3 different buckets. And then, and the buckets are stabilize and support renters. How do we do that better? Build more paths to home ownership and then get creative about reusing existing space for housing in this community. And so those will be the three buckets that people get to ideate around. And then they'll have a lot of time built into reimagine what could be possible if we were thinking outside the box, if we thought differently about this. And then they'll have the afternoon to put together their ideas into a pitch. There's a pitch competition at the end of this where they'll pitch to some judges. There'll be prizes for the best ideas. And, I hope people feel very encouraged by this opportunity to not just share their feedback or their public comment, but to actually be part of the solution. And this project is part of a grant that the City of Fayetteville has received. And so at the end of this grant, we get to put together a business plan to apply for the implementation grant so that there's funds to actually do something about these ideas.
So once the solution is there, you've got to have a way to pay for it, and that's the way to do that. So let me ask you this: how can you make this different than obviously this has been talked about, and there's been a lot of discussion over the last several years. Is this to advance that discussion or continue the discussion that's already taken place? How do you make it look different than what's already been talked about?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we're working to build off of a lot of the progress that has been made. In Fayetteville, there was the Housing Crisis Task Force, and they just wrapped up their 1 year of service with some recommendations to the city. And so a lot of what we're pulling from for this event is from those recommendations around the ALICE population, the asset limited income constrained employed, which makes up a lot of our renters. So we're trying to say, okay, that's not just a document that's going to collect dust on a desk. We're actually going to use that to now come up with some solutions.
And advance it by thinking out of the box, as you mentioned. There may be some ideas that just haven't been thought of yet.
Yes. Yeah, and we're really excited. Part of this is to just inspire people to think outside of the box. And so we have been pulling in lots of different examples from other communities where they have done some really innovative things. And, whether or not we do that exact replication of that exact program is not the point. That I just want people to see what's possible when we think about homeownership differently, when we think about the extra bedroom in, an empty nester's home differently. And when we think about how do we really stabilize this renter population, that's a huge part of our community.
The 2 day event, who can come to this? I mean, do you already have an established group that will be there to talk about this, or is it open to pretty much anybody who wants to come?
It is open to anyone who wants to come. You don't have to live in Fayetteville, but we are ideating for the city of Fayetteville. So we want a good mix of people. Like I said, renters, homeowners, landlords, developers, anyone who is wanting to think about housing.
Do you have to register? And if so, there's a QR code that I guess you can use.
Yes, we would like people to register. That will help us for our planning. There will be meals offered, so that helps there. You can go to our website, circlesnwa.org, to register, and it will send you to an Eventbrite link, and that link will register you for both days.
How much are you all looking forward to what you're going to hear those 2 days?
Oh, we're really excited. I mean, this is really great. I'm just thrilled that the city has gotten behind this. We've done this internally within our Circles program before, this co-create model, and it's generated some really great things. We've done it around with transportation and auto loans, and it's led to us. We're piloting a new fair auto financing pilot right now because of this process. And so it's an experiment in some ways. We don't know what people are going to, come up with. We don't know what's going to be said and shared, but I have a lot of confidence and excitement in our community and for all the different ideas that are going to pop up.
How important is it for maybe other towns using the same model or getting involved?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that this can kind of really validate this is a model that other cities can use. It's something that we'd love to partner with other cities on as well and to implement this co-create model that we've developed.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. It sounds like it's going to be a very good weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited.